Take a look around you. What are the people wearing? A dress, a cap, pastels, or maybe all black? Clothes can actually tell you a lot about a person's personal style and history. Clothes are often what people use to express themselves, and have been throughout history. Take this photo for example. Take a moment and tell me what you see. What do their clothes tell you? It's obviously from a long time ago. None of us dress like this anymore. But how can we tell anything else about it? Let's take this other photo for example. What can you tell me about this one? Now, this one's a little different. I could tell that the other photo was a bit older, probably from the 1950s or that time period, but this one, I can tell it's someone's birthday, perhaps one of the children that are there, but their clothes don't really give me an indication of time, and neither do their surroundings. Yes, pictures can tell a story, but not the full story. So, how do we find that? Research. And one of the best tools for research is the archives. It's a great place to start and to gather more information while still being able to form your own opinion. So, what is an archive? It can take many forms, but it's usually a collection or a group of documents, sounds, or records providing more information about something. Try to think of 3 different places that you know that can hold items like these. We have museums, libraries, and even your homes. For the most part, a lot of families have their own photo albums, or recipe books, or even just their tax records. All of those are considered collections. More formally, we have libraries and museums that can hold things like Holocaust memorabilia, oral accounts, 9/11 history, cars, and other items. But how do you access an archive? A good place to start is the internet. Let's try just looking up Historical Clothes in Maine archive and see what comes up. It looks like there are a few different links that we could try, but let's go ahead and click that first one, Maine Memory Network. It takes us to the Maine Historical Society Historical Dress Collection, but let's go ahead and go to the home page. Right off the bat, we have a lot of different things that we could explore, a few different collections, exhibits, my Maine stories, educational resources, as well as Maine historical online and some tax records, along with some other cool stuff. For now, since we're exploring what different collections have in different archives, let's go ahead and click Featured Collections and see what they have. It looks like we have a Maine archive and landscape database, mapping of Maine, early photography, clothes. We also have Portland tax records, and you can explore other ones online as well. Let's go ahead and go back to that original page, the Maine Historical Society Historical Dress Collection, and go ahead and click that. On this page, we have a longer description of the red dress and what you can kind of expect from this collection. It looks like there are over 3,000 donated items, most of them for females throughout history or children, with a few articles of clothing being from men and other areas of history as well. On the side, we see all of those tabs that say mid to late 19th century, the 20th century, the 18th century, and different types of clothing that you'll find within those collections. They're subcategories of the whole collection. But if we navigate back to this first page, we'll see a little bit more information and we can read through it. Let's go ahead and click the 18th century tab and see what we find. Here we have a description kind of like the last one, where each paragraph is correlating with a dress. Most of these clothes were likely worn by women of stature that had influence and power and money. But at the bottom, we also see a child's dress. But for now, let's go ahead and click into the Revolutionary Era styled gown that we see at the top right and see what information we can find, not just from the paragraph, but also in the picture's descriptions. The dress looks so pretty. I like all the patterns on it and the flowers too. I wonder what it would be like to wear. Whoa, it's so cool. I've always wondered what it would be like to wear stuff like this. I wish clothes could talk so that I could know the story behind this. Who wore it? How many generations did it last through? What were their names? Where was it worn? What was the conversation they had when they were wearing the dress? If only clothes could talk. Well, maybe clothes can't talk, but let's go back to the website and see if there's any additional information we can find on the description or the metadata to see if we can help piece this story together. If we read the description, it states, a member of the Jewett family wore this green brocade silk dress to an 1825 ball in Portland in honor of the Revolutionary War hero, the Marquis de Lafayette. According to Agreeable Solutions, published by Brickstore Museums in 1987, the ball may have been a reception at Daniel Cobb's house or a social call Lafayette made on Portland ladies at Ebenezer Thatcher's residence. The dress embodies a wide swath of American history. The fabric dates between 1735 and 1742, during the colonial period. The dress itself was constructed in the 1700s around the time of the Revolutionary War. By 1825, the dress was altered and reconstructed, perhaps as a costume, known at the time as a fancy dress, in homage to Marquis, or an early example of the colonial revival movement. An open gown, this was probably once a robe. The front of the dress opens to expose the underskirt, which is made of the same fabric. Alterations are found throughout the dress, including a newer white cotton wristband. The seams across the shoulders were altered at some point, and the skirt was hemmed to make the dress shorter. The description can be a great place to see a little bit more information about the item that you're looking at, but then right below this we have the About This item, where we have things like title, creation date, subject date, location, media, dimensions, local code, collection, and object type. Those are things that we would refer to as the metadata of the item. So what's the title of this item? Revolutionary War Era Styled Gown, Portland, CA, 1825. When was the creation date? 1825. When was the subject date? 1825. And so on and so forth. Can you tell me the location of this dress? Right. Portland, Cumberland County. We see it right here in location. What about media? What does that mean? For this specific case, it's for the type of material that was used for this item. Silk and cotton. Perfect. What about what collection this is a part of? Right. Costume collection. And then below that, we have what kind of object is it? For this, even though it's a picture on the website, in the collection itself, it's a physical object because it's something that you can hold. Whereas if it was just a photograph of this person in the dress, the object type would be photograph, or maybe it would be film. There's lots of cool things you can learn about an item in a collection through the metadata and the descriptions. A lot of items may not have such a lengthy description or about page, but there's still little tidbits here and there in most collections that you can have some puzzle pieces that you didn't have before. Now, if we go back to the tabs that we were talking about earlier and look for the 18th century page, we can go ahead and click on it and see what we find. Here we have two different articles of clothing from the 18th century, and we have two different paragraphs kind of describing what each of these items are, and then we also have some information about what historically was going on and the way that fashion was ever evolving during this time period. Let's go ahead and take a deep dive into the bright pink petticoat over on the top right. Right off the bat, we have a few different angles that we can click on and explore of what the dress looks like. We have a few up-close shots, one of the front of the dress, one of the back, and then a zoomed-in shot so we can see that waistline, band, and then also a close-up of the pattern. So if we wanted to see it up close, we could. Now, just like the other page, if we wanted to see that description, we're going to need to scroll a little bit down to see that big title description and then the about this item. Okay, now go ahead and pause the video and take a second to read the description and about this item. And then we're going to answer some questions about how well we know how to read this description. Okay, I trust that you went ahead and read everything there is to read. So our first question is, after reading the description, what material is this item made of? Well, in the paragraph, we can go ahead and see linen, wool, and polished wool. Wow, this one's even better than the other one, but it doesn't really match my shirt. Well, we'll see what else we can find about this. This bright pink skirt was popular in Britain and America. Can you imagine me wearing this at the Boston Tea Party? Yeah, it doesn't really fit in here, does it? Clothes and style can change so fast. Clothes often do change with the season as well. Both when it's colder, we wear more outer layers, and then when it's hot, we take off those outer layers and try to add more shorts and tank tops and things like that. But clothes also change throughout trends, and so those can vary from month to month, year to year, and even week to week. Just look at me now, for example. This outfit would not have fit in at the Boston Tea Party. Let's go ahead and jump into the mid to late 19th century. Here, these paragraphs show us and give us a little bit more context about what was going on during this time. And so this looks like the beginning of when clothing was starting to be in print. And so this would mean like fashion articles were being published, as well as free patterns for other people to cut out and use. And then also fashion was being kind of showcased. There was the discovery of chemical dye, which is what helped define this era. There's the electric blue, which was taken and made from coal tar. On the page, we see that blue dress, so that was used with this electric blue, and it kind of revolutionized the clothing industry at this time because they had never seen anything like that before. Now, about this dress, it looks like from the description that Phoebe Townsend of Alexander owned the dress as a young lady. Although she died at 18, this was her dress before that. And so throughout her teens, she probably wore this in about the 1860s. What can you tell me about this item that you didn't already know? Now, back to the sub-columns, it's important to have these just because we've already noticed how drastically these dresses are different between centuries, so it's important to help categorize them to make sure that people can easily access and see what time period they're in, what the key differences are, without having to necessarily read the whole thing, and they can see from a glance what is to be expected from the page that they're clicking. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the mid-20th century, and I want you to take what you've learned from this and apply it yourself. So I'm going to show you a few different things, and then I'll ask you some questions about it. So let's go ahead and look at the 1950 and 1960s outfits, and let's answer a few questions. First, when was the blue and white checkered dress from? 1955. And then for the second question, who is associated with the printed circle dress? Anna Clark. Now, let's go to the 1960s to 1970s page. Let's navigate to the page 2. First question is, what is the name of the skirt? Leather patchwork mini skirt. The second question is, when could it have been worn? 1970s. And if we go to page 3, our last question is, based on the image, where was this dress worn? The correct answer could be Pennsylvania or wedding, since it's a bridesmaid's. Already on this page, we can see a couple different titles that give us a little bit more description, even without the paragraph. But let's go ahead and jump into the 1970s. Look at just the drastic difference between this and the last period that we were in. This is the first time that we're seeing pants and some more funky colors and patterns. Let's go ahead and take a deeper dive into the pantsuit by Crazy Horse from 1975. Looking at the pantsuit's description, let's go ahead and read through it together and see if we can answer these questions. First, where was this item purchased? What material was it made from? What is the brand? Who did the Crazy Horse brand cater to? Who did the pantsuit belong to? When did they wear it? Yeah, the dresses were pretty, but I think that this is way more my style. Next time we should explore the 80s music. I think that would be way more fun. So many fun facts and information. Now that we have traveled through history, let's get back to my time. Well, that's better. It is so interesting that clothes can really shape a generation and that you can really tell a lot from just what someone's wearing. The archives can be helpful in telling that story with us. There's so many other archives also. You can really explore anything that you can think of. Days in history, scrapbooks, shoes, social media, different events that happen throughout your hometown, jungles, you name it. Well, thanks for joining us. Join me on another adventure another time.